The Black Dolphin Prison, also known as Penal Colony No. 6, is situated close to the Kazakhstan-Russia border. It is only used for the most violent and dangerous convicted criminals in the nation, including Chechen terrorists, cannibals, pedophiles, and serial murders. The dolphin sculpture made by the prisoners and placed on the grass in front of the jail reception gave the area its name. Guards patrol the facility every 15 minutes, and video monitoring is used to monitor the prisoners around the clock. Each 50-square-foot cell has 2 inmates allocated to it, and it is protected from guards and other inmates by 3 sets of steel doors. Only 90 minutes a day is allotted for prisoners to spend outside of their cells, in a desolate concrete exercise yard. To prevent them from learning the layout of the prison, interacting with other inmates, or overwhelming the guards, they are handcuffed, blindfolded, and made to walk with their heads bowed whenever they are transferred to any place inside the facility. Black Dolphin is thought to be the only one who uses this method. The worst prison in Kenya is considered to be Kamiti Maximum Security Prison, which is located in the Roysambu constituency. It was constructed in 1954 by the British to hold criminals during a state of emergency established in October 1952, and it was designed after an outdated colonial system. The old gallows in Kamiti are still in place, but the last execution there took place in 1987. The prison's declared capacity is 1,200, but sources say there are between 1,800 and 2,500 people squeezed within. The surroundings are unclean. Serious illnesses like gonorrhea, syphilis, TB, HIV/AIDS, and dysentery are widespread. Although Kamiti was previously notorious for harboring political prisoners and carrying out hanging executions, its notoriety increased in 2008 after a disturbance caused by a drug search was caught on camera and shown on television. In 2021, when 3 convicted terror suspects managed to escape, it grabbed headlines once more. Later, 7 wardens were detained for aiding their escape. San Quentin is famed for its ferocity and is the oldest prison in California. Numerous notorious criminals have called it home, including Robert F. Kennedy's killer Saran, Scott Peterson, and Charles Manson. It housed California's only gas chamber in addition to the state's only death row institution, which housed more than 700 death row convicts and was the largest facility in the country. 3 years after the governor of California put an end to executions in the state began the process of closing death row and moving the inmates in early 2022. Over time, especially in the 1960s and 1970s, San Quentin developed a reputation for corruption and racial disturbances that the guards actively encouraged. The Turkish Ministry of Justice erected the Diyarbakir prison in 1980. After the Turkish coup d'état on September 12, 1980, Diyarbakir was turned into a military jail under martial law, where the use of torture as a method of forced assimilation of the Kurds was frequent. Following the September coup, 650,000 individuals were imprisoned, the majority of them were assaulted or subjected to torture. Over 500 people lost their lives, majority of them in Diyarbakir. Prisoners in Diyarbakir were subjected to horrifying acts of systematic torture during the period of barbarity, which refers to the early and middle 1980s while Diyarbakir was still being constructed. Hundreds of testimonies from former Diyarbakir inmates have detailed abuse of the body and mind, deprivation of sleep, sensory, water, and food, Palestinian hangings, hanging by the arms mock executions, electric shocks to the genitals, removal of healthy teeth and nails, rape or threat of rape, and worse. The development of the Kurdistan Workers' Party, or PKK, which continues to battle against the Turkish government, was spurred by these mistreatments of Kurdish detainees. Diyarbakir is still in use today and is infamous for having a high inmate to human rights violation ratio. To mixed criticism, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan stated in 2021 that it would be transformed into a cultural center. Mendoza prison in Argentina has a population that is almost 3 times the maximum allowed. Convicts are forced to sleep on the floor without beds in cells that are only 43 square feet in size and can hold up to 5 inmates. In a 2005 study, Amnesty International said that the situation was so dire that some prisoners in Mendoza had to close their mouths to express their desire for improved living conditions. The conditions at the period were so bad that detainees were subjected to torture and occasionally even death. Inmates had no choice but to use plastic bags and bottles as restrooms because they received subpar medical treatment and the prison lacked a functioning sewage system. Georgia's habit of torturing prisoners by guards attracted attention from around the world in 2012 following a scandal at the Guldani prison in Tbilisi. A 35-year-old former prison guard who turned whistleblower captured video of numerous violations, including rape and assault. Major demonstrations were prompted by the recordings across the nation, and the treatment of prisoners there has since undergone real change. Although conditions in the country's jails have improved over the past 10 years, Guldani prison is once again in the news as the scene of demonstrations brought on by Mikhail Saakashvili's detention. Despite the fact that there are both pro- and anti-Saakashvili release protesters, the circumstance is drawing attention to the facility's prominence and reputation. This high-security jail in the U.S. is also known as ADX Florence, Florence ADX, Supermax, or the Alcatraz of the Rockies. Inmates at this 1994-built institution include Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, Ramzi Youssef, who was responsible for the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, and Zacarias Moussaoui, who was engaged in the 9/11 attacks. Inmates at this facility are kept in their 7 by 12-foot concrete cells for 23 hours a day in solitary confinement. Small gaps in the metal doors of the cells serve as the only windows, and inmates are fed through these slots. During the 1-hour leisure session, prisoners are permitted to leave their cells, but they are taken to a small outdoor cage while wearing various restraints. Former warden Robert Hood famously called the facility a clean version of hell. This 60-square-mile prison complex known as Camp 14 in Kachion is located close to the center of North Korea. Camp 14 was reportedly constructed in 1959 close to the country's center, about 40 miles north of Pyongyang, according to reports by the U.S. Department of State. With a capacity of 15,000 inmates, Camp 14 is regarded as a political prisoner camp. As a result of being enemy of the state, they are currently serving life sentences. Here, prisoners are constantly starved and made to work as slaves in agriculture, mining, and the textile industry. Additionally, Camp 14 has a 3 generations of punishment policy, which means that many of its inmates are there simply because they are related to someone who has been charged with a crime. As a result, it's likely that they will pass away there without ever having committed a crime.